Like, tell us about Maldives. Like,
Oh,
what was your experience there?
it's paradise there. It really is. It's
Wow.
totally amazing. Like, it's it's very different to like my other type of travels or our other type of travels. Like, it's more tranquil and peace. It's not the adventure junkies holiday. I wouldn't say. It's more like a coupley family type thing. Like, there's not adventure stuff to do. Like, there's water sports.
Hey, welcome to Travel Tuesday Happy Hour, where we interview dope people doing dope things for this season from around the world. Today we have a beautiful guest. Can you tell us who you are and what do you do?
Hello, my name is Tola. I live in London. I'm a nurse by profession, but I love to travel.
Oh, a nurse by profession, but love to travel. So what got you into traveling?
To be honest, when I look back at it, I think it was kind of a thing that just happened from my childhood. Um, I was born in Nigeria and we used to live in the city, but my dad is from the country and he worked as a banker. But every weekend, like he would work Monday to Friday, and every weekend we all had to travel back to the countryside. And this was the thing that, like, I'm the last in the family. So as my brothers grew, they would just make themselves unavailable so they didn't have to go with him. But as the littlest, I always had to go with him. And I just enjoyed the fact that on the route down, we'll stop at little villages along the way. And I enjoy stopping for food and, meeting the locals. And so I think that when I reflect on it, I think that's where it came from for me. It's just the experiences of new places and new people. And I suppose then in my adult life, I just, thought there's so much of the world to be seen and there's so much to be experienced. So why not?
Awesome. So what was your first trip as an adult? Like, being able to fund your own trip and
Mm.
the building up to the excitement of getting there.
So the first ever trip I went to by myself as an adult was to Paris. It was a bit of a situation because prior to getting my European citizenship, I held a Nigerian passport, which means it's a bit more of a process to traveling because then you have to apply for visas to where you're going to and the likes of that. So, my first trip was to France, Paris, and first I had to go through the process of applying for a visa, and then they had to grant you your visa, and then you can make your reservations for your hotel and your flights and things like that. I suppose right now traveling is slightly simpler because it's less complicated in terms of seeking approvals first. If you have the money, then you can just, get up and go rather than, prior when there was a bit more of a process. But, if it didn't stop me then when I still had to go through a lot of processes to go, I suppose it won't stop me now.
So what was that experience like? What was getting to Paris like for you?
It was exciting because, it was one of the places that I really wanted to go. Because, everybody talks about, Paris has been all this like totally romantic. And the first time I traveled, I went with my husband. So we went together. And even from when I was a child, I wanted to go to Disneyland Paris, but I didn't go until I was an adult. So that was like our first stop. And we spent like 2 days exploring the park, and then we did a bit of the other stuff that people do in Paris, like going to Eiffel Tower and the rest. But it was just the beauty of going somewhere that you've always wanted to go, and it was as magical as I imagined it would be. And just, I suppose, for me, traveling is just being somewhere new and just immersing yourself in the experience. um I suppose, I don't know how much better I could explain it, but just the thrill of being somewhere new and just wanting to know about it and trying to put yourself in that moment and enjoy it, really.
Right. So it's crazy because some people, so you know how they say that you never want to meet your idol, or you never want to go to that, like, to your bucket list place, or your like the place you most want to visit the most, because you'll feel disappointed if it doesn't meet your
Mm,
expectations. So it sounds like Paris met every expectation, especially Disney World. I mean, I
yeah.
have yet to been to Disney World or Disneyland here in the United States.
No
So
way. Are you
so
crazy?
I'm still working on my adult adventures. So so I definitely feel you on that.
Mm,
and it sounds like it met everything that you expected, right?
Absolutely. I suppose I put
Awesome.
so much effort into, as I said earlier, like first I had to get approval in terms of visas to get in. And at each stage, you could be met by, well, sorry, you can't come because it was quite invasive. They ask you for your passport and your bank details and your working details and all of this. So, I think I was so eager to go that getting there, it was just like a dream come true for me. So maybe there might have been some things that I wasn't happy with, but the fact that I was there alone was great for me, if you get what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same experience. So we went for the year to turn last year for Ghana, and this visa
Okay.
process was the most extensive process I've ever
Oh
experienced.
gosh.
And so I went to, I went to Egypt. I needed a visa for Egypt. I just went down to the consulate, got it the same day. You know what I mean?
Mm,
But the Ghana visa was just like mind blowing, unrealistic, because
mm.
so many people were trying to go at the same
At the
time.
same time.
And I mean, I'm glad that I wasn't the only one experiencing this, but it
Mm.
was just crazy.
I
So
can only
you
imagine.
mentioned the thrill, the adventure. Are these
Mm.
the things that just keep you wanting to find different locations to visit, or is it just something else as well?
I suppose I just feel like there's so much of the world out there to be seen. And why not? Like, why would you want to be stuck to the four perimeters of where you are? There's so much of the world to be seen. There's so much to be experienced. And I suppose every country, I try and take away something from everywhere I go. Whatever it is that, the country ticks. Like, I like to, as much as most times we travel, we visit all the touristy spots and that's where we go. But I try and not limit myself to, where's buzzing in this town or where's all the things happening in this town. Because sometimes, especially with Instagram, sometimes you've not been to places, but you feel like you have. You've seen.
For real, it makes it seem like, oh, I've been there. I don't need to go there anymore. Yeah, I mean, a
Absolutely.
lot of people like to do the local stuff because the Instagram stuff, once you finally hit the locations on Instagram, so many people there. And guess what? Everybody's got their phone out doing this, and and it makes it feel like, all right, I don't want to go here anymore. I want to go somewhere else. So that's
Anymore.
amazing. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so with all your travels, being a person
Mm,
of being a woman, especially traveling while Black, right? How
mm.
has that experience been? Have you found preferential treatment in some places and not so much so in others, or it's been pretty much the same for you all around?
To be honest, prior to traveling solo, as I said, I've never traveled by myself up until this year. So it's
Mhm.
either like we go on a family holiday or I go away with my husband. So sometimes, I don't know, sometimes just having somebody else there with you, you kind of feel a little bit of extra security, like, okay, maybe it's not so bad. Or even though probably my husband will probably be the first person to run away, signs of danger. But sometimes it's just good to
They
have
don't.
that
They look.
person
They see a
with you.
big guy next to you. They're not gonna even bother you.
Yeah, right. But I suppose this year in January was my first ever solo trip, and I went to Malaysia, and it took a lot of me psyching myself into, because it's totally out of my comfort zone. And even in my own life, I'm not. Well, I never thought like I was someone that enjoyed my own company because I'm never really alone. Like I have three children. I've been with my partner for the longest time. And then I come from a big family. So from leaving home, then I got married. So I never had that time alone where I was like by myself. So traveling, going off for a week by myself, even like my family were nervous for me that, are you really sure you want to do this? But, you know, it just was something that I wanted to explore. Like, there must be something to get from it. And going to Malaysia, a whole like 13 hours or 14 hours from London was a bit of, I might as well do it. I was scared, I wouldn't even lie. And I did all the safety things, like I turned my location on all the time, just so if you don't hear from me for more than an hour, call the police. So, whatever it was. But yeah, that was the first time that I would say that I was a bit apprehensive about traveling, but something in me just wanted to do it just so I knew I was able to do. I don't know what I was trying to prove to myself anyway, but I would say that was my most challenging trips yet, but looking back at it, I would say it was one that I got the most out of. In terms of, I planned my own itinerary. I did a lot of research into, as as a female and a Black woman, is it safe to travel to Malaysia? And YouTube helped me a lot, because then I found another lady who had been, and our experiences weren't all that bad. And that's why I decided, okay, maybe I'd go. And I wanted to see more of Asia anyway. So that's why I was like, okay, I'll go there. So I had a list of things. I feel like going solo was where I did the most stuff, because when you travel with other people, like sometimes it's hard to get your husband out of bed, or the kid is sick, or this happens or that happens. But yeah,
So
going by myself, I feel like I did everything I wanted to do, or I set out to do.
So I want to step a couple steps back before we move forward.
Okay.
With that being said, how, because I hope to one day be as fortunate as you to travel around with family. So
Mm.
how are you able to kind of maneuver the multiple children and husband on
Mm.
travel? How does that work for you as a mom?
And it takes a lot of planning. Um, so I suppose because it takes a lot of planning. That's the best I would say. Prior to now, I usually always plan our trips in advance. I won't even lie. Like, I know that the kids are always going to be off 2 weeks at Christmas, and they're going to be off for 2 weeks at Easter, and then they're off for like 6 weeks in the summer holidays. The summer holidays is the most expensive time to travel, so that's why I always book the year in advance. At least that's the cheapest you get it. So that's what I used to do. I know when the kids are going to be off, and I plan way ahead to keep prices as minimal. That's if you book your plane tickets a year in advance, it's as cheap as you get it. If you book your hotels a year in advance, it's as cheap as you get it. So if you know when you're going to be off, and then you book your annual leave well in advance, off you go.
Oh man, I'm definitely gonna revisit this in the next in the future segment of the show. So
Hmm.
just keep that in mind.
Okay.
So we are now in a worldwide pandemic, right?
Crazy
And
times.
we're in a situation where we're hoping to be on a better side of things now, and as opportunities to kind of vaccinate people are now available, that's where we are today. But
Yeah.
let's take a couple steps back. Where were you when the world started to shut down as it relates to COVID-19?
Okay. I think I mentioned earlier that I went to Malaysia in January. So in January, the world hasn't shut down, but there was talks. So there was talks about, what's going on in China, that yada yada. And, at that point, I was just buzzed about going away, and my flight wasn't cancelled. So off I went. Coming back though, I felt like, especially when I was back in work, if I just sneezed a little, people like turned the side eye at me, like, "What's going on with you?" and whatever the heck it was. But yeah. So that was literally my last travel was to Malaysia before things, we ate proper lockdown in March. I was at home in March. I live in London, so I was at home in March when everywhere shut down basically. Um, yeah. What exactly was it you asked me about it? Were you
So
asking if I was
what?
away?
Yeah. So where were you, and then how did it impact you?
I suppose I was at home, so I'd already returned from my trip when it happened. And
Mhm.
in terms of, well, I work as a nurse, so I suppose it's business as
Oh,
usual.
frontline
Um,
worker. Oh man, salute to you.
I suppose it was business as usual, but in a different way. I'm lucky that I work in the community, so kudos to the nurses that work in the hospital setting. I really do take my hats off to them. And the community as well is it's challenging, but it's not as intense. I wouldn't even lie. Like I do home care, so I go into people's homes, and these are families that you develop a connection with, and
Mhm.
they kind of become a part of your little bubble and a part of your little
Okay.
clique, if I could say the same. But it's not. So it's business as usual, as in terms of I had to continue to go to work because
Mhm.
you're a nurse and you have to care for people.
Right.
Um, it impacted me the most in terms of the whole country shut down. So then the children and myself and my husband work in healthcare. I think that was the biggest challenge for us, is that we both were needed in work, but then we had 3 children that didn't have school.
Mm.
And then so it meant that we had to kind of work against each other's shifts so that one person could be home and the other could be in work. So it meant we never really saw each other. And then whoever was
Wow.
at home was left with the homeschooling thing. Oh my God, that was the pain of my life. I have so much respect for teachers. I would, I owe them Christmas presents, Christmas cards, Christmas chocolate, every, I really think that, teachers are such unseen heroes. And I don't know how they, just teaching my 3 children was a struggle. I don't know how they teach 20, 30 odd children. That was my biggest challenge, was having, the responsibility of work and the responsibility of educating children. Oh my God. I almost pulled every
Yeah.
strand of my hair out. It was the most difficult.
So
the most
what are the
difficult
age
time.
ranges? Because that's going to tell the audience what kind of how much hair you may have had at the end of that semester.
Well, my littlest is 6, and then my daughter is
Ooh.
12, and my eldest is 15. So
So you had
the first,
kindergarten, first grade, all the way up until ninth grade. Wow.
absolutely, absolutely.
Wow.
I suppose the elder, the old, well, my 12-year-old was like kind of like the other one to teach, because uh she, like, my son was fine. The first one is fine because he could kind of get on with his own stuff. But and then all these things, oh gosh, like my daughter needed help with like biology. I've forgotten all of that. But
Yeah. See, people say, why would I need this education anymore beyond high school? This is
you
an
do.
exact reason why we all need to keep, because let's be honest, history repeats itself, right? We had
It
influenza
does.
back in the early, right? And now we have COVID. And back
COVID.
then, I'm assuming they had some form of homeschooling, right?
Yeah,
And so now,
absolutely.
we just need to make sure we keep these elementary school books so that we can go back for a refresher every so
Oh
often.
my God. And you don't want to look like that parent that doesn't know what she's talking about.
You know what? Quite honestly, there's more out there that are willing to admit it. But you're the parent. You're not supposed to look not so much smarter than your 5-year-old. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That was the most
So,
challenging. Absolutely. The most challenging was the teaching
but
bit.
you did it though. You did it.
Yeah, because we
And
didn't have much choice.
you've learned exactly. You learn a little bit more every day, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so we're talking about homeschool, and then now it's becoming part of our new norm.
Mm.
I, with EU now shutting down again because of another strand out there. How are you guys adjusting to the new normal? Because I mean, at some point or another, things were a little bit lenient. You guys were able to walk around, get out,
Mm-hmm.
but now things are being shut down again. How are you guys
Again.
adjusting to these ebbs and flows in the environment?
It's difficult, to be honest. But I suppose the lesson I've learned from it all is you really, it I suppose this year more than ever, I'm more appreciative of the little things. Like, it was our anniversary just on gosh, I can't speak, on Christmas Eve. And as I said to you earlier, I always book our trips well in advance just because it's cheapest. So, because I really never ever want to pay more than I should for any holiday. And
Gotcha.
coming up to the time, we were just so nervous about, oh, we'll be able to travel. And myself and my husband, for our anniversary every year, we just try and get away, because sometimes as parents, you kind of self-neglect, and, your duty, your role as a parent comes first, and then you kind of come down later on down the line after the kids have been sorted. So
Completely
we
understand.
so we try and for our anniversary just go away by ourselves without the pressure, or uh, always not having that parenting responsibility on you for that 1 week or 5 days or wherever time we're able to get away. So I was just looking a bit sad and disappointed that, oh, we will not be able to go away this year. Luckily, we were able to travel. Like, literally, we went at tier 3, and the next day after we got to Maldives, then we went into tier 4. So I was just happy
Wow.
that we were able
Hold
to
up.
get away.
Hold up. You just flexed on us real quick and just kind of glanced over it, right? Let's listen. I listen, right? I listen.
Okay.
So for your anniversary, you went to the Maldives. Is that what
We
I'm
did,
hearing?
yeah. We did, and I'm
Now,
so glad. I literally almost that's you remember the last time I booked the time was so messed up because I wasn't really sure of the
Right.
time zones and what it was going to be like. But we literally just returned
Hmm.
yesterday. We returned Christmas morning and I literally I'm still jet lagged. My body clock is not right, but I'm glad I'm here with speaking with
It's
you
all good.
anyway.
So tell me it, because that's a place I want to visit. Like, tell us about Maldives. Like,
Oh,
what was your experience there?
it's paradise there. It really is. It's
Wow.
totally amazing. Like, it's it's very different to like my other type of travels or our other type of travels. Like, it's more tranquil and peace. It's not the adventure junkies holiday. I wouldn't say it's more
Gotcha.
like a coupley family type thing. Like, there's not adventure stuff to do. Like, there's water spots, but that's about it. There's no like mountain climbing or hiking or the rest of the stuff. It's
Gotcha.
more where
So it's
you
the
go
place to
when
go if you want to go, relax,
chill.
unwind, and literally relax. Do nothing
Absolutely.
but lay on the beach or on the water
L-
all day long.
Yeah, and have people just serve you cocktails.
Listen, that's a life to live. Listen, you
Yeah.
rounded out the new year, the end of this year with a beautiful vacation. You
Oh,
know
I'm
what I
so
mean?
grateful. I'm
And
so
well,
grateful.
from what I hear, well deserved. You got
Mm,
2 semesters of homeschool, which you are now
that wasn't
proficient in
easy.
math, science, and the social studies,
Science.
right? And in the midst of it all, still having to work and care for the people within the community. So that's
Mhm.
definitely well deserved to both of you all.
Oh, I'm
Um,
so happy we were able to go.
that's amazing. So, as far as travel, right? Like, what are some of your top 5 things or tips that you would give somebody looking to start traveling? I want to also incorporate families that are looking to travel together, because you sound like you got it down packed. And
Mm.
I know some of my guests would probably love to. Some of my listeners would love to hear what is it that you as a parent do to make sure that not just you as solo travel, but you as a family can travel together.
Okay, I suppose if you definitely for plan traveling as a family, it can be quite expensive. So I'd say plan well in advance. And the thing is, traveling for me is an experience. Like, you don't have to go to the most. Especially if I'm traveling with my children, sometimes I keep it in between Europe because it would not be as expensive as, for example, trying to fly your whole family to Dubai. So you have to look at your budget and book well in that. The best advice I can give is book well in advance. You know when you're able to go. You know, sometimes people say, oh, last minute travel is cheap and all of these type of things. But if you have children, I think it's better to, you know, plan well in advance. If you're someone that, has, I wouldn't say it's what I do because I don't have it down to a T like that. Some people have like holiday funds and they put money into it every month and whatever it is. But what I do is I put a deposit on holidays. Most of these companies do it. You can secure your holiday with a little deposit. Sometimes £150 you secured your holiday. And then what I do is I have a whole year to pay it off. No pressure. So that's what I mostly do. I book like for now, I know British Airways starts their holidays on Boxing Day. They start their holiday sales. So I start hunting down where can I go next year? Next summer is July, August. I book my holidays from now. And it means that I can secure it with something from £75 to £300. And then you have the rest of all this time to pay off. That's what I do, and it works fine. Sometimes I put book deposits on 3 or 4 holidays, and I know I just pay off the quickest one first. So if,
Mm,
for example, I book my holidays now, I might book my Easter one, book my summer one, book my October next year one, book my Christmas one, like I did for our Maldives holiday. We'll book Christmas, book it all. All you have to do is put a deposit on it, and then you start paying it off in terms or
that's
in the
nice.
frequency of the one that you're going next. So whichever one is next, you have to pay that one off quickly. And it works. As I said earlier, if you're going to travel with kids, it's probably cheaper if your destination is not so far away. So look at places closer to home. There's loads of places in Europe that's amazing for kids. And with children, they're not as fussy. They just want to go away somewhere where they'll have the best time. If they're with you, they'll have the best time anyway. And everywhere has potential. Every single place you go to, it doesn't have to be. Instagram paints this, or you have to go to wherever you go. There's potential. Just book
Okay.
that flight
Okay.
and go there.
Awesome, awesome. So, what would you say so far, right? Because you said you have a 12-year-old, right? Or 14,
Mm,
16-year-old?
15 is now.
15.
The eldest is
So
15.
so in the 15 years of traveling as a family, what would be, let's say, your top 5? And I know it's probably going to be tough, but
Oh, it's
top
difficult.
5 family destinations within Europe.
Within Europe,
I'm gonna keep it within Europe just so that
I'd
um
say without even flinching, Spain is good. Like it's cheap
yes.
as chips, and you'll have the best time there. You have good weather. It's better than UK in terms of weather. Um, you can go for spring, summer, whenever you go. End of summer. Um, Spain. I think we've been to like almost every every city there. So my first one would definitely be Spain. Then Paris is quite cheap to fly to as well. You can even take the Eurostar to get there, so you don't even have to fly. You can get a train. And the kids always love going back to
Nice.
Disney. So it's always just looking around places where, like my kids, because of the ages that they are, they like places with theme parks. So when we go to Paris, they always love going back to Paris. Spain as well, they have loads of theme parks. Wherever city you go to, there's something. So anywhere with like theme parks and a water park, they're happy. Yeah,
Okay,
you
so
can
we
throw in
got
a day of
Spain, France,
France,
where else?
Portugal. Portugal is nice
Mm,
and cheap to go to as well. Um, this year we booked to go to Turkey. Turkey is quite inexpensive, but I suppose because of COVID we weren't able to go. But we booked
mhm,
to go to Malta as well. It's nice and
mm,
cheap to go to. You have an amazing
yeah,
time there. Where else? Where else? Where else in Europe? Cyprus. We've been to Cyprus as well. Not expensive,
nice.
nice and cheap.
Nice, nice. So, you mentioned you're looking at future trips. Like, what are some of the future trips that you're looking for? Family,
As
solo,
mm.
anniversary.
Yeah, I suppose in terms of future trips for next year, I'm just looking at the places that we weren't able to go to this year that I'd booked already. So we were
Okay,
meant to, as I said, go to Istanbul. I really hope that we'll be able to go next year. Um, so for the family that's where I'd booked for us to go to this year was to Istanbul and to Malta as well.
okay,
Um, for myself, I still have a flight to South Africa, which is I'm looking at every day. It's not cancelled yet. So my solo trip. So I pinned it down to traveling for my birthday as a solo trip as a gift to myself. And then
okay.
for Christmas, then we travel for our anniversary. And in between that, we try and squeeze 2 family holidays as well.
Nice.
So I'd booked. Well, I have a booking for South Africa now. I don't know if I'll be able to go or not because now there's the new strain of COVID and all of this there. And
Right.
currently, flights from there to the UK are banned. So I don't know what way that's going to work out for me. But definitely, I'll try and rebook like our holidays to Turkey. I really want to bring the kids to Turkey and
Nice.
also to Greece. I've not been to Greece at all before, and it looks amazing there. So
Have you guys
definitely,
been
like
to Italy?
Michael knows, Italy, yes. So I've been to, well,
No.
we've only been to Milan and Naples, but I'd love to
Okay.
go to Rome.
Nice, nice,
Yeah,
nice. Okay,
that's
so
good.
what do you got going on that you might want people to find out about you on Instagram, on Facebook, or wherever it is that you have your side hustles going?
I suppose I started my Instagram this year because, well, there was COVID and we were spending a lot of time at home. And it just came about from, reminiscing on your trips. So sometimes you just go through your phone and it brings back all the beautiful memories of, where you've been and the experiences you've had. And I suppose that's why I opened it up. And it was for me as like a black woman and being Nigerian, sometimes there's this, oh, I have people ask me a lot like, oh, how are you able to travel and how do you manage it? And especially the question you asked me as well, like, oh, how are you able to go away with your kids? And, you know, I did, sometimes when you're in a situation, you don't see it, you're like, oh, it's not rocket science, it's doable. But then you remember that when people keep asking you, it means that there's a need, it means that people don't, are probably not in that your privileged situation where you feel like it's doable. So I've just made the account just so people can see that I'm not a super person. I'm just a random person. So if I'm able to do it, then you can. And sure I can show you. So, and if you need to ask me, do, because I'm not a hoarder of information. And I do want, especially we as Black people, there's so much of the world to be seen. And, it's not as expensive as people believe it is. Like I said already, you can put such a little deposit and then start paying off your balance as you can afford to. So it's just a matter of, putting a bit of effort into it. And as I said, it's not rocket science. Anybody can do it. And I suppose that's the whole aim
Yeah.
behind my Instagram, is just to see that I'm a normal person and I can do this and I can show you how.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, right? Is because you show how it's possible. Because I mean, for me, when I got out of, well, actually, when I was in college and got out of college,
Mm,
I was able to move around and travel because I realized if I set certain expenses aside, I can
mm,
afford the elaborate trips that I want to take.
mm,
And some people think my trips cost thousands of dollars when they only
mm.
cost maybe half the price they think it is,
Price. Absolutely.
and to your point, sometimes you got to plan well ahead. I like to
Yeah.
plan 6 months to a year out, so by the time the trip comes, it's paid off and I don't have
It's
to worry about it.
Yeah, and
You
you have
know what I
something to
mean?
look forward to all year as well. That's what it usually is for me. Like you have something to look forward to. You're doing this and then you're doing that after. It's lovely.
So tell us where people can find you. What's your Instagram page and your
Oh,
Facebook page if
so
you have one?
yeah, so my Instagram is at Tola's Adventures. You can find me on there. My DMs are open if you have any questions to ask me. As I said, I'm not a hoarder of information. I'm more than happy to share my experiences or, give advice on whatever it is that's putting, a stop to you seeing the world.
Awesome. Well, I am honored. I am truly honored that you blessed me with the knowledge of parental traveling. And, honestly, with the little bit of time that you had to join the show, you could have easily said no, but you said yes.
Oh,
And I appreciate you so much because you are propelling the mission and vision of the show, which is
mm,
showing more people that look like us in the diaspora that it's
mm,
possible to travel and we can really see
absolutely.
the world if we really want to. So
Want to.
I truly thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad to have been here, sharing experiences and speaking with you. You're a true vibe. Thank you for having me.